So let's first start with shoes. The only examples I really have are the Reebok stuff. You guys, there's other options out there for sure. But I think if you're committing to this as a way to start training like your sport, it'd be no different if you took up long distance running, right? If you were to say, okay, I'm gonna start training for marathons, what would be the first thing you do? You'd probably go to Three Rivers, right, and get fitted for a pair of shoes and get a good pair of running shoes. So I don't think it's any different in here. The argument for kind of these minimalist or zero drop type shoes is just functionality. It doesn't have the support. If you ever watch, there's a really cool YouTube video I watched of somebody squatting in like thick athletic or running shoes, like typical running shoes that you'd be used to, and then squatting in Olympic lifting shoes. And you can, in very slow motion, you can just see the foot moving while it was happening. And so if that's just in squatting, imagine the clean and jerk, the snatch, or those movements, which are a lot more dynamic, a lot more power coming off the ground. The foot would move even more. So with these kinds of nano styles, I mean, there's New Balances, there's all sorts of different brands that you could use. You just find whatever works for you guys. I started with just Chuck Taylors, right? They're just straight and they're flat. Those work pretty good. Those are your cheapest option at 30, 40 bucks. But again, with this kind of stuff, I like to buy, I usually spend money on it, but that's just me because this is kind of my thing. But if you're going to commit to something, I think put some money into the shoe. But the idea with this is there's very little to no arch support here. There's zero drop between heel and toe. It's just a flat base shoe. It's a very general purpose shoe. Now I wouldn't recommend running long distances in this. I ran the Galloping Gobbler in my nanos this past Thanksgiving, and my feet were hurting pretty bad for a couple days. So I went ahead and bought the Sprinters. These are more for a running shoe. These are what I wear around more than anything. But if I'm training, like today's workout, right? Rowing, double unders, wall balls, sit-ups, I'd be in my Nano, right? I think it's a good GP shoe. The Olympic lifting shoe, I'm a huge fan of. I don't have my Do-Ins. I was going to grab them. But these started off being wood-soled, right? And you're going to see about half an inch to a 1 inch raise of the heel. So there's three main points to the Olympic lifting shoe. That's stability, and that's the heel. Well, let's just focus on those right now. The heel and the stability, right? So if you ever put these on, the first thing I felt like when I put them on, it felt like I had roots under my feet. It's a wider spread, it's very flat, and it's very stable, especially with the Velcro over top. And even the new, I mean, it's like any other shoe company, they'll put out a new version every 6 months, right? And there'll be something new to it. But the new one has a couple different Velcro straps over it. But I'm a huge fan of this. So let's talk about overhead squatting. A really good example with this. If we see a tendency for people's chest to come forward in an overhead squat or a snatch, which is very common, a lot of times that can be due to ankle restriction or ankle mobility, right? So when I bring that toe up, that movement of my ankle is called dorsiflexion. If I can elevate my foot or my heel half inch to an inch, that's automatically giving me a little more dorsiflexion just by nature of my foot being in a different position, right? So we kind of played with them a little bit with Dustin today. He put them on. Did you feel a difference with them? Okay. It does make a big difference. And even after you gain that mobility, it's still, I think, good to wear them. So if you're going to commit to the sport, and a lot of maybe other CrossFit gyms wouldn't have as much weightlifting as we do in our programming. So if you're definitely going to be training here, I would recommend them because we do a lot of weightlifting. Pretty much every Friday you're going to see a focus on weightlifting and throughout the week as well. But it's very good to look into. I recommend them. Yeah, the third thing I was going to say is base, but that's pretty much just stability. It's a wider shoe, it's tight on your foot, and you get the support that you need, and it helps with ankle mobility. So again, there's a really cool picture I saw a while back on Facebook. They took a picture of a guy in regular running shoes, or he was in his socks, and he was doing an overhead squat with a PVC pipe. Chest was about 3 inches lower than when he put on the weightlifting shoes. His chest was a little more upright. All right, so it's a cool thing to play with. You can always try these on. These are yours, Jordan? These are Jordans. I got mine up here. We got a couple different sizes up front if you guys just want to try them on and feel them out a little bit. But like I said, if it's just an ollie day, it's a good thing to try on, to put on. All right. And yeah, I guess I have 3 pairs of shoes. I don't like change them out during workouts. That would just be ridiculous. But whatever the focus is for that day, I generally never run more than 4 miles except for the Galloping Gobbler. So that's when I'll wear these this year. But everything else, I pretty much just use my Nanos or any sort of, you got the New Balance, Merrells. Okay, those are pretty popular too, like trail running, minimalist stuff. But whatever works for you. The caution I'd put into that is if you're used to lots of support and your feet you have maybe some foot issues or you have arch supports, don't get too crazy with putting this stuff on right away. You may find that it's incredibly painful over time because your body just may not adapt to it as quickly. All right, so similar to kind of this barefoot running thing that's been getting more and more popular, it's not something you just jump on. I'm going to run a mile today barefoot. It's not going to work, right? You'll hurt yourself. So it's a very easy, when you read about how to start with that, it's you run a very little bit at a time and progressively add distance over time. So I'd play with the same thing as well on changing your shoes too much, especially if you're really used to the heavy arch supports.